Welcome back. And as I said in the opening, my guest this week in the show is Simon Pressley from Propertyology. G'day, Simon. Good to be talking to you again, mate.
Likewise, my friend.
You're in lockdown. Are you working from home still?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've been here since I guess all the country was told to lock down in middle of March, and as things have unfolded, we've made this a permanent decision. The old working from home is the way of the future for us.
Wow, how good's that? Oh, well, that's fantastic. But just as a point of interest, have you found that you and the team are a little bit more productive working this way?
That was one of the considerations for making this a formal decision. When you have a coffee with your 2IC and you ask him how's the first 2 months of working from home been for you, and this fellow was struggling with it initially, and his response was a massive big smile, and he said, "Simon, my wife and I have calculated we have saved 12 and a half hours every week by not having to commute to work each day. 12 and a half hours. So we've added an extra day each week to his life."
And mate, and a dramatic improvement in lifestyle, I've got to say.
Yes, there was never a perfect solution for this decision. The biggest disadvantage, I think, is you lose that connectivity. Things like Zoom, like we're using now, is a means to an end, but you can't duplicate actually being, in the flesh, side by side in the office. But it's just something that we're going to have to work at. But the pros far outweigh the cons in our.
Yeah, I was watching an interesting article. I know we're way off topic here, but it's a very relevant point, where there's going to be a bit of a mix between work from home and occasionally getting into an office environment for that sharing of relationships. You may even find that it could be Friday drinks or it could be a gathering in some way, but there's going to be a mix, I think, between working from home and getting together as a team.
Absolutely, it won't suit everybody, but for some, it will be a much better alternative. And one of the positives to come out of COVID, Kevin, is we've all been forced to try different things, and sometimes we try these different things and realise, no, I definitely don't like it. And sometimes being forced to try an alternative, we actually stumble across something that we feel is better for us.
Okay, well, mate, let's get to our first topic for this week, and that is the final nail in the inner city apartment coffin. Just tell me when you want me to bring that first graphic up.
Oh, let's bring it up straight away, if you wouldn't mind there, Kevin.
Yep.
Look, what we've done here is to look at the graphical evidence of our 8 capital cities over the entire last decade. The blue column represents the total decade change in median house price for each of our capital cities. And then to the immediate right of each of those blue columns, we have hand-picked some individual suburbs within each of the chosen cities, and the green columns represent the total change in median apartment value over that same decade. So if we quickly go through them, it's really not greatly relevant which city performed better than the other, because we're talking about the past. What I want people to really focus on here is the evidence showing an enormous differential between what the median house price of a city did and what the apartment value did in suburbs where high-rise density is most prominent. And it is an enormous gap. If you look at Sydney's median house price increased by 100%, exactly 100% over the last decade. But suburbs such as Ryde only increased by 25% for an apartment value, Holroyd 40%, Rose Hill 46%. So these did not achieve even half the rate of growth as what the typical house did. Bearing in mind the median house price for the greater city, there will be plenty of suburbs that had a lot higher growth rate than what the median was. If we look at Melbourne, 91% increase for the median house price. Docklands, I remember about 15, 20 years ago when they were developing things and people said, wow, this is going to be gorgeous in the city, near the water. Median apartment values only increased by 11%. South Yarra and Richmond are very, very popular inner city places to live, but their apartment values have done bugger all relative to what the house price have done. You go through every single capital city there with the exception of one, and it really, really stands out. Hobart's median house price increased by 49%. Again, it's not greatly relevant which city performed the best, because we could pick any block in time. We're focusing on the differential between how apartments in that city compared to the house price. Now, what's different about Hobart compared to the other locations? It does not allow, it's illegal to have high-rise apartment development. You can never get anything approved. Um, but throughout our other capital cities, especially our two biggest cities, and even a couple of regional locations such as Wollongong, Newcastle and Gold Coast, where high-rise apartment living is quite common close to the centre, the apartment values just do not perform. This is the evidence of a decade.
Can I ask you a question? I want to go back to Melbourne now, and you mentioned their docklands, and you know, you made a quite good point there about the comparison in growth in value. I wonder sometimes how much of it has to do with the quality of the construction and even the density. If you look at docklands as an example, I mean, it's very, very dense. I don't know if you've stayed there, but I certainly have. I didn't enjoy the experience, I've got to say, even though its location was great. I don't know that the developers have actually used the best of the location.
Yeah, well, it's a great point. So what actually causes, we know the evidence now, so what actually causes such a big differential? And it's a couple of things. Firstly, they just build way too many of them. Now, there will always be people who want to buy an apartment or a house in all parts of the country. But that's not the point. The point is, what's the financial performance like, and why is this so poor compared to what else you could achieve with your money? They just build way too many of them. Now, whilst there'll be a buyer ready to purchase docklands or anywhere, Kevin, the thing is, what are they prepared to pay for it? And there is so much evidence available for people today. You don't need a valuer to do this for you. You can simply just look online and see what else is listed for sale at the time you have some interest in buying something. Similarly, you can jump online and see something that sold last month. When you're talking high-rise apartments, there are literally hundreds of thousands of them. So you've got all this evidence in front of you, comparable sales, if you like. If you're looking at buying, say, a dockland apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, there will probably be as many as 100 of them for sale in either the same complex you're looking to buy in or the one across the road or around the corner. So you've got all this evidence as a buyer to say, I'm not paying that extra 50K, 100K. You don't have that big body of evidence when you're looking at an attached house. So mass produced, too many of them, too much comparative data. Well, too much. It's a good thing for a buyer to not force the prices up. But when you then own that property, you are not going to get the growth that you'll get somewhere else.
That's right.
You mentioned quality of construction. That is another very important thing. Really, anything built in Australia, any high-rise apartment built in Australia in the last 20 years, if it hasn't already had significant structural defects exposed, I'd suggest it's probably only a matter of time before that does happen. And more buyers are aware of that now. So it's a shame for those who've already bought one of these apartments. But going forward, the buyers in future are going to be less inclined to buy one of these because they quite rightly are going to have a lack of confidence of them purchasing I call a piece of bubonic plague, these high-rise apartments.
And that's sort of, I don't know whether we should have had it up before now, but certainly the second graphic lists a number of reasons why that is the case. And you've just talked about a few of them there, Simon.
Yep, the final nail in the coffin. So we've already seen the evidence of the last 10 years. This is pre-COVID, right? Too many of them built, too much comparative data to stop prices going up, poor quality workmanship, poor quality control, and now we throw in an extra layer, what I call the COVID effect. There will be diminished demand. There'll be fewer buyers interested in apartments in future, partly because of how COVID has affected communities. There are going to be lots of service-based industries, people like you and I who wear, I used to wear a suit to work when I worked in an office, who will have made a conscious decision to no longer work in an inner city office and now to work from home. When that happens, a lot of people who previously chose to live in an inner city apartment but are no longer working there, they are going to be less likely to want to live there. As more of the inner city residents move out to the burbs or to a regional location or something like that, demand for goods and services within the inner city, the retail, clothes stores and cafes and restaurants, the demand for their services diminish. So where their job once was, that will move to with it. So there's going to be a lot less people interested in living in these high-rise apartments in future. The final nail in the coffin for apartments, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. Really interesting conversation there. A lot to take away as well. We're going to come back after this very short break And I'm going to ask Simon, and I know the answer to this question, you probably do too, but is there a formula? Is there a calculation that will help you determine how much property you need to retire comfortably? This is Real Estate Talk. I'm Kevin Turner. My special guest this week is Simon Pressley from Propertyology. We'll be back in just a moment.